the biggest entrepreneur platform on the planet. This is Business Rockstars.
This is Business Rockstars. I'm Brittany Whitney, and my guest today is Jack Gia, founder and CEO of Musely. Jack, thanks so much for joining us today.
Absolutely, Brittany.
So you have a very impressive entrepreneurial background. Tell us a little bit about what you were doing before you started Musely.
Yeah, I'm kind of a serial entrepreneur. I started 4 companies in the past, in the last almost 30 years. But I always want to be an entrepreneur. Even though when I was 8 years old, I wanted to go to Silicon Valley one day, which I ultimately did.
And you're a mentor and an investor to a lot of companies, and you've grown companies so extensively. How did you decide that you want to become a serial entrepreneur?
This is one of those things that people debate a lot, whether entrepreneur is nature or nurture. I think I was just born to be an entrepreneur, but I do know a lot of people in Silicon Valley, they were kind of nurtured into it. So there are really 2 paths for becoming an entrepreneur.
Absolutely. So for those who are not familiar, what is Musely?
Musely is a online telemedicine platform to offer prescription skincare medications to anybody. We make that process really simple, quick, and inexpensive.
Very nice. So if someone were to go on the Musely website, what would they walk us through what they would see, kind of what their experience would be like?
Yeah. So for example, if you have a skin condition you want to treat, like dark spots or melasma or anti-aging, wrinkles, fine lines, and normally if you want a really real effective treatment, then you have to go see your dermatologist, right? Which is 6 weeks of waiting time and all of that. And then you may not even get the prescription medications that is really effective. So instead, you just pick up your phone, launch your browser, and you do a 3-minute telemedicine thing, which is just really a questionnaires about your medical history, your allergy, and your skin conditions that you want to treat. And you have to upload the photos for the areas that you have concern with. Then within hours, one of our dermatologists, board certified dermatologists, we have more than 20 of them on our platform, will be assigned to you. And they will look at your history and conditions and then write a customized prescription for you. We have 40 plus different formulas that they can write against. And so you get a very customized formula. And then within 24 hours of that, one of our pharmacies will literally fresh make compound the medications for you based on that formula and then ship it out all within 24 hours. Wow. And so you get this very quickly instead of waiting for weeks. And then, typical dermatologists don't even have a way to compound something so fresh, which is part of the true differentiation and why the efficacy is so strong, is that freshly made medications for you.
And telehealth, especially these days now more than ever, is so popular with everything going on in the world. What inspired you to start Musely?
Yeah, that's a longer story. So my first 3 companies were all more pure technology companies, software, internet technology. One of them actually went public doing the first .com. And then I became a VC myself, more full-time. I do a lot of side investment as angel investors, but I became full-time for a couple of years, and that's where I spent a lot of time in the consumer space. End up, ultimately invested quite a few successful consumer internet companies, and that's where I got addicted to internet software consumer company, because the impact you can make is more than to a few businesses, is actually to millions of consumers. And so about 2013, I think, when I came back from being a VC, and my prior founding members of the prior companies happened to be available. So like 4 of us decided to do something in the consumer space. And one of the things that inspired Musely was my personal hobby. I'm a home improvement junkie. I've done, literally for 20 years, I've accumulated a black notebook of tips, hundreds of them, on how to do things around the house, garden, home. And one of the example was actually how to build a backyard golf green. Right, I'm a golfer and I'm very addicted to golf. The professional quotes were very expensive, and we're in Bay Area, so very expensive to start with. It was literally $300,000 to build a backyard golf green.
Wow.
And I said that was just crazy. And so through the tips that I learned, I was able to do that for $5,000.
Wow.
And it became literally the inspiration and one of the first 3 tips on our Musely platform. So today you can still go to musely.com, a Musely app, and find that tip, how to turn a $300,000 project into $5,000 through DIY. Right. So that was sort of the inspiration. But of course, the total addressable market for backyard golf green is pretty much a zero. Yeah. So we've really focused on women, beauty, lifestyle. And then one of the biggest category was skincare tips. And so we started with the content and skincare tips. And in 3 years, we accumulated about 1 million tips on our platform with 30 million monthly readers of these content. And that really kind of one thing led to another, ultimately into the prescription skincare.
Wow, that's amazing. And what was it like kind of breaking into this brand new market for you? Because as you said before, all of your other companies were more tech focused. Were you nervous? Were you excited? Kind of, what was that like?
It was definitely, any startup or any entrepreneur will tell you they're always nervous. And that's part of the pros and cons to being an entrepreneur. So I was very nervous. First time I was nervous when I didn't have money. But after, building, for the company for the first time, and money wasn't really a concern anymore, but still that nervousness that I call the moments of despair are still there. But it was actually the way I found over the years that is how you innovate, how you break through, is that pressure, is that, got lost, in the moment of, is this going to work? And that's where the energy comes in. Some people may fall apart as a result of being too scared, which I know tons of entrepreneurs. But if they know, and you have to consciously know that, I always said entrepreneurship is inhumane. By definition, if you venture out from your pack, your village, your community, and to do something alone, it is just inhumane behavior, right? And therefore, all kinds of protection mechanism will come in to tell you, don't do it, right? It's not safe.
Right.
But that very activity, venturing out, is really the core of entrepreneurship, to do something different than no one else has done. And so understand that emotion, understand that being scared is normal. And it ultimately helps me. And in this particular journey, of course, going to skincare wasn't, it was one thing led to another, right? But it's actually not by accident. It's by design. Our culture is iterate and fail fast. So we iterate, and you basically one thing led to another. Yeah.
I think that's such good advice, especially if new entrepreneurs can just get over that they're probably going to fail at least once, and that's okay. And then you can try again, or you'll innovate. Like you said, you'll do something new. So I think that's great advice. There are so many amazing results from your patients when you look on your website. Why is FaceRx so effective?
Yeah. And this is sort of the core of what we accidentally discovered in some sense, because when we started with the content, skincare tips, then we built a marketplace with 900 skincare products, actually, as a result. It was, initially I thought that was very exciting. That was 2018, late 2017 when we launched it. Oh my God, there's so many different skincare product, that's like, including personally, my wife needed some of those products as well. But what I didn't realize as an engineer and not in the industry is that that was actually a problem. Because what we actually found out, a lot of the brands shared the same contract manufacturer, right? They have a very different packaging, different story, but what's inside the jar, the cream, is actually identical. Right. So that what to me was unbelievable. And therefore what we found is the effectiveness simply isn't there, right? These are what we found the industry that the very, very large, 200 some $billion industry in skincare, generally speaking, they're really selling water, 99% water plus 1% scent, which is scented water, which is very good smell moisturizer. Right. You need moisturizer, no question about it, but they're not selling something that have a true solution for skin condition or skin problems. Mm-hmm. And that's where the medication comes in. Why our medication is so effective? Because number one, they are medication, they're designed, and they're both scientifically proven and clinically proven. They can actually treat whatever the skin conditions that you may have, like, as I said, melasma or dark spots or age spots. And you really need that medication, right? And the second part, why it's so effective, why nothing has worked prior to this, is that medication needs to be freshly made. We have this literally notion of from farm to table, but the pharmacy farm to table, because the key ingredients, the key medication ingredients are extremely volatile. They oxidize very quickly. So the half-life of these medications are only like 2 months. And so therefore you can't use traditional methods like a pharmaceutical methods, factory made 9 months ago, go through the distribution channel, get to your home, that they're already expired.
Right.
Yeah. So those are probably the key and of course, the customization, individualized. And then we have a bunch of other post-treatment, we have an e-nurse that literally guides you. Not only the medication needs to be effective, how to apply it, how to use it is equally important. And turn out even simple thing like, how do you cleanse your skin? How do you dry it? Right? That's not something most people understand. I mean, I certainly didn't understand, but then for the medication to be effective, your pores has to be open, has to be dry, so the medication can go sink in down to the lower layer of your epidermis, right? Otherwise, if this cream sit on the surface of your skin, it's not going to do anything, right? So that those little things that adds up to be, something effective or not.
I'm sure you've learned so much kind of starting this business that you never really thought you would learn. So in your past, you've been an advisor for GSR Ventures and many others. Many of your early investments became unicorns. What piece of advice do you have for startups that you tend to advise for?
There's sort of several things, probably not one piece of advice, but multiple in terms of how to become a successful business. Probably the top two advice I would say, go after a big market. The bigger the market, the bigger the pond, the more opportunity there is, and more probably inefficiency. Skincare is a good example. $260 billion market that turned out to be extremely inefficient or not effective. Right. And the second part is you have to have a good team. Right. So the team and the market are extremely important. We call the A square team. You got to be, not, two kinds of A's, and, individual talents and also team player. And these two A square team basically can find solutions in this jungle of large market. Right. And then you just iterate and fail fast. Don't be afraid of failing. Right. We all going to fail. I mean, there's no way I would know there's a prescription skincare that 5 years ago, right? That just it's not outside of my vocabulary.
Right. And what do you look for in a co-founder? Like, let's say someone's listening and they're just starting out in their business. What should they look for? Should they look for someone who is completely opposite of them, has a totally different skill set, personality-wise? What should they look for? Because I think a lot of people are kind of scared to find that it's like a marriage, right? Your founder is a partnership.
Yeah, and it's a marriage that you can't even divorce. I mean, unless you want to destroy the business. So, I think I have seen both model works. So complementary generally is more popular. So you may want to have someone with more of a business acumen and then someone with a technical sort of a capability. And in my case, with a combination of all of them, our 4 co-founders have, different strength, both technically and business-wise. But sometimes I do see 2 very capable, almost identical personality and working together very well, right? But the key to us, what kind of people you're looking for. I mean, it's also 3 things that I typically search for. someone passionate. Passion is probably number one. If you don't have passion, because entrepreneur journey, as I said, is an humane activity, right? Therefore, without passion, you will hit a lot of impasses, and you will give up after, maybe you won't give up after 3 impasses, but after 10, 20, 50, and without passion, you will, right? And then also the passion gives you that one extra overdrive that nobody else does, right? The second part is talent, right? The ability to solve problem. When we say talent means, do you see problem? Number one. If you can see problem, that's actually half the problem. I mean, half of the solution right there, right? And then you also need to come up with solutions, right? Those combination, the talent. And we actually don't care, as a tech business, we don't care tech experience that much. Because what we found over and over, even from my own company, all the company invested, a lot of these founders have zero experience in the industry they're in, right? I mean, Elon Musk is a great example of all the industry that he got into that he had no experience. Right. And I have a personal investment. I invest very early. It's called GOAT, treating tennis shoes, Nike and Jordans on their platform, people buying, selling, and it becomes very successful, multi-billion-dollar worth now. The founders had no idea. I mean, that wasn't even on their radar for the first 3 years. I mean, selling shoes, right? Yeah.
And I want to talk a little bit about company culture too, because I'm sure, as you started, it was probably you and your co-founder when you first started.
Yeah.
And then you grew to, such a big company. How do you foster good company culture, and what did you really look for when you were hiring people?
So I think culture, number one, needs to be probably, captured in the very beginning, because it's hard to retroactively install a culture. So the culture needs to come naturally. So our culture has always been, number one, we want to delight our customers. Or we literally have a 3 bullets, kind of a cultural statement from day one. We want to delight, not just make them happy. Delight means go beyond expectation. So it started out with developing, medications that nobody think there is this thing that can actually reverse aging or remove dark spots, or red spots and rosacea and all the other stuff that we treat, right? So that's kind of, delight. And then that translates into a lot of little things, like even our design, like, we have this joke internally, 1 pixel to the left, because it wasn't 1 pixel off from alignment. Right. But that little thing makes all the difference. So that's kind of the first one. Then the second one, probably the most important part, is to iterate fast. Right. I mean, this is sort of well-known Silicon Valley lean startup model. Lean means that we don't want to be slow, and we want to be lean and fast. Right. And fail fast is the only way to find success. There is no other way. It doesn't matter whether you're Steve Jobs or you're brand new entrepreneur, and we all sort of work in the same fashion. And then the third one is to hire the best team, the A² team. Beyond hardworking, we call it. Has to be smart, has to be adaptive. It can't be just stubborn. So we don't say we won't change. We will change. Right? Change is part of the equation.
Absolutely. And what are your thoughts on maintaining such a strong shared vision for your team, especially when you're growing a company like Musely?
Yeah, I think when you start with something genuine and real, we recently did a little branding exercise. We had some external consultant coming in to kind of just try to define our brand more clearly, right? And what they found is actually what we have said, what we've been doing all along, right? So there's this thing called brand pyramid, which basically defines your persona. And they ultimately said, your persona is creator and sage, right? The two. Creator, of course, we're creating new things, we're disrupting the skincare industry. But how do we do that, right? They found is we actually do it through the sage personality, which is basically using science, using clinical results as the way to communicate, use data. And we don't put fluff into our stuff. And then they say, well, then your marketing, your communication to public needs to reflect that true personality. Let's not change it. Let's not, make you who you are not, right? So that's kind of the reason you stay genuine, stay to yourself, is ultimately how you can keep your culture going.
Yeah, that's really great advice, especially staying genuine, because you can't always fake it till you make it.
Yeah, that's right. You can't. You really have to stay true to yourself until you make it.
Right. And as you said before, what's the skincare industry? 200 billion, did you say?
Yeah, it's about worldwide $260 billion industry.
Wow. So what is it like, kind of making sure that Musely stands apart from other prescriptive skincare companies? Because I'm sure there are others out there. And, how do you make sure that you guys stand out from the rest?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I think other prescription-based skincare companies, those are great. We don't want to be just the only company offering solutions. Right. There are a lot of different great medications. I think we welcome, and that takes a village to build something. It takes more than one person to build a village, I guess. Right. So that's a movement. But I think the industry is still largely dominant by the traditional skincare company, your consumer packaging companies, right? And they, of course, can offer prescription skincare. Therefore, they, as I said, they're selling really, scented water, right? So number one is we're trying to lead this mission of we sell science over scent, right? We promote science over scent. That's really critical. And hopefully there are more companies, like us to join this mission. It's a big mission, but the ultimate goal is really to democratize. So number one, the awareness of these medications. I think you can ask 100 women, I would say 95 of them won't know there's such a thing, right? My wife being one of them, and she has been a beauty junkie for 20 some years. And so the awareness, democratize that. Right. And then the access, even it, right? Even some of the dermatologists know, but they don't have a way to produce these medications freshly. And therefore the access is non-existent. And the third part is really the affordability, right? There are some effective medications out there that even you have a way to get them fresh, but it's very, very expensive. Yeah. So we made that 10 times cheaper. And then we think we can continue to do that, make it even more affordable so that these medications are not really for the few Hollywood elites, and they can be really available to everybody.
That's amazing. Where do you guys see Musely in the next 5 years?
Yeah, it's really taking that mission, and it's no longer, kind of things have changed in the last couple of years since we launched this. We were definitely a business, but now more and more we felt like there's a social cause that we're really empowering our patients. A lot of them are women. Most of them are women, right? These skin conditions really impact their confidence and their quality of life in many ways. So we really now have brought something to them more than just the physical appearance, but really their mental, fitness, their quality of life. One of our patients recently, for years she really had the melasma, couldn't really have a good quality of life, couldn't graduate from college. And kids would walk up to her in store, right? Literally pointing her out that, hey, you need to clean up your face, right? Her melasma is not, dirty, but she was cured, a year and a half ago. And then we invited her to be even on television. And then she got married last year and finished her college, all during COVID, right? Because the confidence she now, managed to regain. Right. And so that kind of change happens to literally tens of thousands of our patients. We have 250,000 patients now. And the stories we hear every day, they're just amazing. That become really our mission. There's really the social impact that we didn't think we would make.
Absolutely. Yeah. Your website speaks for itself when you go on, and I was looking at the reviews, and there's so many people who have just amazing transformations. Let's say someone's listening to this interview. Where can they learn more about Musely, and where can they purchase your products?
Yeah, it's simple. Go to musely.com. Muse, women who are inspirational. Musely with ly.com. And you will find all the treatments and all the stories and all the patients. We have this Musely Works, musely.com/Musely Works, which has tens of thousands of patients, their own submission of their photos before and after, their little comments on their transformations. Yeah, you can learn all of that over there.
Well, that's amazing. Jack, thank you so much for joining us. It's a pleasure speaking with you, and I can't wait to see where Musely is in the next 5 years.
Yeah, thank you very much, Brittany, and appreciated the conversation.